Good afternoon. Welcome to Metropolitan Community College's first program to honor Native American Heritage Month. Today's introduction is going to be very brief to best accommodate the length of this film. Your microphones and chat with other audience members are turned off, but you may always contact the hosts. Send your questions at any time to moderator Barbara Velasquez. Watch the chat for a link to the online evaluation. And Mr. Jerome Kilsmall, Oglala Lakota, will be introduced and lead our discussion after today's film, which is entitled Songs My Brothers Taught Me. In this film, we will experience the life of one family on the Pine Ridge Reservation. With an older brother in jail and living with their single mother, Johnny and his sister's lives develop new challenges when their absentee cowboy father suddenly dies. The loss prompts Johnny to strike out for Los Angeles, but it means he would have to leave his beloved sister. Let's watch Songs My Brother Taught Me now.
Riding alone out across this flat, as my thoughts and I on this horse's back, catching on to talking to myself. Technically this horse can hear me as well. This place, it seems, comes with a ball and chain. The problem I see continues on in blame. Memories that keep it all the same. Dreams amongst the things that threat to change. Daylight and moon lingers in the sky. Across the creek that recently run dry. A faith that seems to flicker in the rain keeps me hanging on to certain things. I've weathered all the greatest storms that came. I've come across a girl to keep me sane. Somewhere in the wind that blew this way left me all alone, I'm here to stay. Riding home out across these plains.
All right, thank you everybody for being with us today and watching Songs My Brothers Taught Me. As I stated earlier, I'm going to introduce Mr. Jerome Kilsmall now, so we can have a little discussion with the time left. Jerome Kilsmall is an Oglala Lakota from Porcupine, South Dakota, on the Pine Ridge Reservation. He's a graduate from the University of South Dakota with an MA in Selected Studies and retired after 20 years at the University of South Dakota, where he taught Lakota language, American Indian thought, Siouan tribal culture, early Native American history. He is featured in the book Wounded Warriors, A Time for Healing, and has a story in the Silver Anniversary Anthology published by the South Dakota Humanities Council. Mr. Kilsma has had parts in several videos. He is a storyteller for public schools, museums, and colleges. He translates, explains, and sings Lakota, ceremonial, sweat lodge, powwow, rabbit, round dance, warrior, vision quest, and Sundance songs. He sings with the Iron Wing Singers of Wagner, South Dakota. He's a powwow organizer, announcer, arena director, and helps in conducting Lakota ceremonies. He portrayed Tecumseh, a Shawnee chief and British general. He also portrayed Dr. Charles Alexander Eastman, the first Dakota medical doctor. Among his extensive community leadership, Mr. Kilsma has been on the board of directors for the Native American Advocacy Program. Please welcome Mr. Jerome Kilsma. Welcome, Jerome. Can you hear us?
Hello. Oh, yes.
Excellent.
If you have your microphones on, then I would be able to hear you. If you have a question, otherwise leave them off so it won't overlap all the other sounds.
Yeah, so people can send their questions, but we'll get started with Mr. Kilsma. In viewing songs my brothers taught me, do you have any just general thoughts about this documentary that you'd like to share with our audience?
I think that tribal life is always the white or other cultures permeates into the reservation life. As you can see, we have rodeo life, we have the bar scenes, things that weren't there before. Lakota, we never knew about alcohol until we had contact with the French first, and then the rest of the movement toward the west, including the long knives over the Alleghenies and the mountains. There's a proclamation that no white people should come over those mountains. But if they say they can't, they will. Thus, the Ohio River Valley, Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee, all those places, which was good, fertile farmlands, just it was like the Great Flood. You couldn't stop them anymore. Tecumseh tried. He brought 51 people from different tribes who thought like him, including the Red Sticks of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and the Seneca. All of them tribes. He encouraged them to stand with him to save the Ohio River Valley and other valleys from encroachment and to save it for future generations. So he was way ahead of his time for thinking about national parks or federal lands that could remain the same forever. That's what he wanted. But of course, there were a lot of battles. Mad Anthony Wayne was a general that was assigned to wipe out the Shawnee, the Miami, and all the Kickapoo and all those tribes. They were trying to, back in those days, wipe them out. Just like later on with the American policies, termination and relocation and all the other acts of Congress that tried to get us off of our lands. Why do they want to get us off our lands? Well, of course, North Dakota had oil, South Dakota has gold, so there's a way to do things to get us off our lands. And so, and it still goes on. We barely make progress. Like the Native American Religious Freedom Act But then when we wanted to pray on the sacred sites, they said no. So they had to make another amendment to stop that. Only a week or so at Greyhorn Butte or Devil's Tower, we get to go there and have a Sundance and prayer times, because the mountain climbers wanted to have the whole summer to climb that Devil's Tower. And so we're overpowered by the needs of the thrill seekers. We were spiritual seekers, but always the thrill seekers overpower us.
That's a really lovely way to start the discussion, that because it's such a, I would say it's such a maybe complicated documentary. There's so many things that you could take from it. At one point, we saw white clay, and the cowboy father, before he passes, says, "Watch out for white clay with the protest." For anybody who doesn't know what goes on in white clay, could you tell us about that?
Well, it was the beer capital of western South Dakota and western Nebraska. That was the beer capital of the that world. And so there was thousands and thousands of cases of beer every month sold to mostly Pine Ridge. And so check day, all the cars are parked down there to get beer. So that place became, there's only like 5 families that live there. And the revenue was millions of dollars that went through there to help Nebraska create their own programs and things. We didn't get a cent. And white clay, where it sits, there's a little spur there, and white clay is included as part of the reservation. But they made the state line above it, so we had no say over the sales of alcohol there.
And is it accurate to say that no alcohol is to be sold on the reservation?
No, that's why they go to white clay.
Yeah. And so Johnny was going to make himself a little business there until they blew up his truck, right?
Yeah. He was hauling beer. And when I was in Pine Ridge, the pint of wine was $1. You had to go to Rushville to get wine and bring it back to the reservation. There were 9 powerful bootleggers in Pine Ridge when I was young and fresh out of high school, and the police didn't bother them because they were related to the bootleggers. And so it was really a safe place to for those families to at least have some money, and have cars and things, that the ones that were bootleggers. And throughout the reservation, there were other bootleggers, Kyle and Porcupine, Manderson, Oglala. There were bootleggers out there too, that nobody ever bothered them, because once again, there's a kinship system that's very strong on reservation.
Yeah.
They talk about protection. It's through the kinship system. And if you want somebody to be president, they had a key radio station. So the candidate would go up there, and the first thing they say on a radio is to say good morning to all the relatives who had a lot of power. And so everyone, good morning, Auntie Velma. Good morning, Auntie Lucille. So they know who those are. Those are meaning, church-going people who they're mentioning, the campaigners, and name the ones that have huge families, so he could get votes. You know, that's a common thing to see the campaigners go to Kili radio. And sure enough, they're going to say all their relatives that have huge families and who are respected people.
That's interesting. So early on, there's a classroom scene where the teacher's asking the kids what they want to do. Like, you've been in school for 4 years, you know, what's your future? Realistically today, what kind of opportunities do kids who want to stay on the reservation have?
Well, if you're lucky, you work at the casino. If you're lucky, you get a job at the hospital. If you're lucky, you get a job at the schools, janitor, kitchen, you know, grounds, and things like that. You know, but there's always somebody who would get a job, they would mess up and get fired, late for work, oversleeping. We're not accustomed to getting early and get to work at the exact time you're supposed to be there. You know, Lakota were really laid back. You know, we don't like to be treated with strictness. We don't like that. You know, but some are really attentive. They do get up early, like me. I used to get up early in the morning. And why did I want to get up early? Me. Why do you think I wanted to get up early? Well, number one, I went to Holy Rosary Mission, and one of the boys told me, they were altar boys. They said, you know, if you're altar boy, you get to go to the kitchen and they fry you eggs and pancakes and everything for the altar boys. So I asked Father, can I be an altar boy? And they asked me, are you a Catholic? I said, no. So I had to get me baptized first. And I didn't have any parents. I didn't have parents, so I asked Father, could I still get baptized? I don't have any parents. And they said, yes, you have to pick a godfather and a godmother. And that's the hardest thing to do. Who am I going to pick, you know, to stand for me when I'm being baptized? Because a lot of them were, they don't say it, but they're really against the Catholic Church, but they went to school there. And there are some who are strictly Catholic and were staunch religious people who went to school there also. And so I looked and see which one. So I picked my favorite basketball player, the champion basketball player. I picked him to be my godfather. And I had to ask him. So when we're in line shout, I'd go toward the back and I'd get behind him. And I said, Teddy Paul. So I really liked the way he played basketball. Oh, I couldn't ask him to be my godfather. I'd say something else. Finally, I got enough courage to ask him. I said, Teddy Paul, would you be my godfather? Would I get baptized? And he said, sure, I could do that for you. And so next, there was the girl I had to ask. And that time we used to write notes and fold them in little pieces, little tiny notes. We cleverly make a swab. And I go to the girls' kitchen, girls' dining halls there, boys' dining halls there. So I kind of had to have a lot of tact and had to be clever. I went to that door. When it opened, I went like this to one of the girls. Give this to Karen. That's one of my cousins. Okay. In honor, I had the name of the girl that's supposed to go to. And she must have read it because it's a note came back and said, yes, I could do that. I could be your godmother.
That's sweet.
So I got baptized and I got to be an altar boy and eat good. A lot of people say, oh, I was really religious instead. I wasn't. I was hungry. I wanted to eat good. And so I did. And in Holy Rose Mission, the mass was in Latin. So I learned my responses really well. And pretty soon I was teaching younger boys who were altar boys their Latin responses. I was teaching it. So I taught Latin before I taught Lakota.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, good minds. That's no, I'm not surprised knowing all the marvelous things you've done, Jerome. So we have another question. This person is remarking at the scenery in the documentary. What a visually beautiful and deeply, in fact, impactful film. How large is the reservation?
Oh, that's pretty large. I don't know the acreage, but I would say all the way across would be maybe 40 miles one way, and then the other way is probably about 60 miles, square. And so that's pretty big. It's not small, and I know every valley and every road and even the fire guards in the mountains. I knew all of them because I rode horseback all the time. I was raised in Kaya, so I knew all the districts there. And every one of those valleys, like Porcupine, Manderson, Potato Creek, Kaya, they all have creeks running through them. And they're spring fed. One thing I could say about our reservation, we have ice cold clean water. If you don't know that, you know it now. We had ice cold, good, clean water. And where I lived, we had our actual own spring. So my grandfather made a huge box, cedar box, and he dropped it in around where the spring was coming out. And in the front of it, he had a pipe. So when it got high enough, the water came out of there. And in that box, now cedar's water friendly, and it tightens up. So it's like a bucket, huge wooden square bucket. And in there, you would see our actual buckets with butter, and another bucket with cheese. So that was our refrigerator. You would see them floating around. And sometimes you see a watermelon floating around in there. Maybe Grandpa put one in there so we could have ice cold watermelon in the afternoon under our shade. We had the shades behind our home to have the summer. We sit out there in the summer under the shade. To the west and to the south, the actual pine trees were planted all the way around for the summer, so that the sun doesn't come in those directions and on top. And they keep pouring water on the ground inside, so it gets as hard as cement. It gets really hard, so there's no dust. They're really clever. Those old people are really, really clever. And they had beds out there to sleep outside at night, because inside in the summer it's hot in those log homes. And our logs were just huge and just like natural insulation, really warm inside. And so we slept outside in the coolness of the night.
Towards the end, we see this whole time, we know that Johnny's thinking about going to Los Angeles, and the struggles that he's probably going through because he doesn't want to leave his sister. He probably doesn't really want to leave his mom. His brother early on, when he visited him, said, just go, get off the res. Would you say that's pretty common, for people to get that kind of advice when they're growing up on the reservation? Or
well, I'm going to go back to the Relocation Act, And when they moved the natives to cities like Phoenix and Denver and Chicago, and a lot of places where they had sites where they sent the natives for the relocation. And when they got there, the attraction was, when you get there, they're going to get your furniture, they're going to get your house to live in, they're going to get your groceries to get you started the first month, you're going to get vouchers to get clothing, all of those. And when you get there, it's not that quick. You have to wait for the voucher to get approved. Maybe it takes a month. In the meantime, you're starving. And the furniture was not what they said. Was you have to go look for it yourself. You know, and so but they'll give you the some vouchers to go get the furnitures, and then the government sponsored government that would pay for it. So it wasn't easy as it sounds. A lot of the relocation applicants who went, they would come back. And then when they come back, they have nothing because they gave up their home where they used to live. And when you're away and come back, you're treated with suspicion. You know, you're not really Lakota anymore because you gave up your allegiance to the families that you depended on, and they weren't good enough to stay and depend on them. You went away. You know, there's a lot of little things like that that hurts the people who really want to make it in this life. It's not easy. You know, you know, I hitchhiked around all over the west of the Mississippi. When I go to a new town like Phoenix, go to the employment office, there's no work. I got one job, and it was like 3 miles away from the main part of town. I walked all the way out there, was late for what I was supposed to do, and they hired me anyway. And all I had to do was put the caps on bottles as they went by. That's all I had to do. And in the evening, I was supposed to get paid there. He said, no, show me your card, we'll sign it, and you get paid by the employment office. So I had to walk all the way back. By the time I got to the employment office, it was closed. So I had to sleep without food overnight. You know, I look for a church with a shining cross, because if you see one of those, you go over there and knock on the door. At least you get a sandwich or something. You know, so there's places you have to be wise to go to. And so what I did was, when the state fair went there, just in time when I was there, I went to the state fair, and in front of the state fair was the employment office, a long trailer house. So I went in there, I want to sign up for work for the fair and rodeo and carnival and everything. So I signed it, what all I could do. So I put farm machinery operator and maintenance, because I was raised on farms. So I knew all about tractors and trailers and how to back them up and clean them, grease them up in the morning stuff. And so I was easy to get a job there because I knew machinery. And so all I did was drive around tractor with the trailer and change the trash bags. But I had a name tag, so I could go see the rodeo or go to the pavilion to see the country and western singers. I could go in free because I worked for the state fair.
So
You gotta be wise. You have to be wise, you know, to get along.
yeah. And I think you're dropping so many precious gems of information that I hope that our listeners consider further, there's so many opportunities to learn more about Native American history, culture, contemporary life.
Yeah,
And of course, in this short time, we won't get it all, but you have packed so much in. I really appreciate that. I did really love at the end when Johnny's saying what it's like where he lives. He his sentences are short and they may not sound like he's describing an attractive life, but you know he loves it, right? He says things look the same. We're all related. You get tired of doing all the things you have to do. But then at the end, he says, it's a hard place to leave. And I
yeah,
think I'm going to remember that statement. It just was so poetic and so.
yeah. Yeah, well, he has to learn from his little sister.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Really, traditional.
So we are coming close to the end because if we have any classes, they'll be departing. But Jerome, do you have any final comments about this documentary or any advice you have for our audience before we shut down here?
Well, it highlights a lot of the reservation life and lifestyle. That's one thing that informed me, because I'm from there. I'm from Pine Ridge. And I know, that's how I knew all where the bootleggers were. And so once again, you have to be super wise to live on a reservation. He said kinship. Well, maybe that grandpa got his check or uncle got a check. Somebody got a lease check. Somebody got a land sale. You could go to them and just visit and they'll help you. And that's the kinship system I was talking about. It's really strong. And especially if you go to a wake, you'll find out all your relatives, some that come from the cities, and you get to meet them, and some of them say, can I go back with you? Say, yeah, we got room for you. Or, find ways through kinship system, how to get along in this world. And he's got a friend who had a dad who had a garage. So that's where he finally got a good job to learning about cars and,
That deep love and respect really comes throughout this documentary, right? Well, thank you so very much. I want everybody to know that I contacted Mr. Kilsmall late in the game on this, and he has been a contributor to our college for many years, and I'm just really thankful that he made time for us today. And I thank all of you also for being with us for another program that can spark your learning, because it's always
you can give them
your contact information.
You can give them my email.
I will do that.
In case they have more questions.
All right.
I'll answer. Yeah,
So
I'll
I
answer
always
them.
send out an email after this, and I'll put Mr. Kilsmall's email in there. And I will say, having the responsibility to contact a lot of people, you are one of the best at quick responses. And I always appreciate that. So everybody,
Thank you.
send him an email, you'll get an answer. And I see that our technicians, who I want to thank for helping us to present this, have a slide out there for the evaluation. That link is also in the chat, and it will be emailed to you. We will so appreciate your giving us feedback, and I'll do my best to remember to get the feedback to Jerome also. And then we have quite a busy week next week, so we're going to run some slides by to let you know. Next Tuesday, Sarah White, who's the executive director of South Dakota Education Equity Coalition, is going to speak on the fight for Indigenous education. On this one, if you like to be present and in the same room with your speaker, you have that opportunity at the Fort Omaha campus in Building 10, room 110, but you can also connect by Zoom. These this information will be emailed also. And then we have on Wednesday, we have Janelle Whipple, who's going to talk to you about stories of self-advocacy. She helps Native American students at Washington State University, and she is from Nebraska and actually has come home to Nebraska and is working remotely, I believe. But that's her topic, and it'll also be hybrid, so you could be there in person or by Zoom. And then Thursday, Mr. Larry Spotted Crow Man is going to talk to us about a book that he wrote, one of the books that he wrote, The Morning Road to Thanksgiving. That will be virtual only. And then our very final program, I want to make sure people know about this so you can put it on your schedules. Do we have another slide, guys? If not, I'll just tell you. Saturday, November 18th, there is a Native American craft fair, and it'll be at South Omaha campus from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the CAM building, room 120, no cost for any of these opportunities. Once again, thank you very much, Jerome. It's so nice to see you and hear from you.
Okay, thank you.